Let's get right into it. Number 12, the sneeze cannon. Sneezing feels innocent, right? Like your body just hit the refresh button on your nose. But here's the dark plot twist. A sneeze is basically a human air cannon firing out at 100 miles per hour. That's faster than most cars on the highway and infinitely grosser. Your diaphragm contracts, your chest compresses, and boom, your sinuses launch microscopic shrapnel into the atmosphere. Now, this is usually fine unless you're unlucky enough to, say, sneeze while driving. Picture it, you're zooming down the freeway, and your body suddenly decides it's time for a high-velocity face explosion. You close your eyes for 1 second. Just 1 second. And congratulations, you've been blindfolded at 70 miles an hour. That little achoo could land you straight into a guardrail. And then there's the people who hold in sneezes. You've seen them. They clamp their nose like they're keeping a dirty secret, cheeks puffing up like a cartoon frog. The problem is, your body doesn't like being told no. Air has to go somewhere, so instead of a cute sneeze, you risk rupturing blood vessels, popping an eardrum, or even tearing open your throat. Imagine explaining that one in the ER. Yes, doctor. I almost died because I was trying to be polite. So the next time you sneeze, just let it rip. The alternative is becoming the world's saddest cautionary tale killed by his own manners. Number 11. Cough yourself to death. Coughing is your body's attempt to clear out intruders like dust, germs, or the ghost of that Dorito crumb you inhaled 2 hours ago. But here's the kicker: cough too hard, and your body literally risks breaking itself. Doctors even have a term for this: cough syncope. That's the polite Latin way of saying you coughed so hard, you knocked yourself unconscious. Why does this happen? Because every cough spikes the pressure in your chest and brain. You're basically squeezing your head like it's a balloon. Push too far and surprise, your brain briefly shuts down, like a computer that's had enough nonsense. People have fainted in public from coughing, sometimes collapsing dramatically in grocery stores like they just got sniped by a sniper rifle made of pollen. And that's not the worst part. Some cases have led to broken ribs. Imagine trying to explain that one to friends. Yeah, I didn't fall off a ladder, I just coughed with too much enthusiasm. Your body betraying you because it thought dust was scarier than gravity. The lesson: your lungs are strong, but maybe don't try to cough your way into the Olympics. Nobody wants their obituary to read, "He died doing what he loved," repeatedly hacking. Number 10. Stretching into oblivion. You know that morning stretch where you arch your back, lift your arms, and suddenly feel like a Greek god rising from slumber. Yeah, turns out that victory pose can sometimes trip your nervous system into an accidental crash landing. There's this delightful phenomenon called stretch syncope. It's when a big stretch, combined with holding your breath for a second, messes with blood flow to your brain. You end up fainting in your own living room, which has to be the least heroic way to collapse. Imagine being discovered by your roommate, lying unconscious on the carpet, arms still stuck in a triumphant "yay me" position. And it's not just fainting. That sudden drop in blood pressure can cause convulsions that look terrifyingly like seizures. There are even reports of people injuring themselves from face planting after an overly dramatic morning stretch. Nothing screams peak human like spraining your wrist because you dared to celebrate being awake. So yes, stretching feels good, but maybe don't turn it into a Cirque du Soleil audition. Otherwise, the only performance you'll be giving is a pratfall worthy of a cartoon. Number 9. Swallowing the wrong way. You'd think something as basic as eating wouldn't be life-threatening. Humans have been swallowing stuff since the dawn of time, right? Yet here we are, still occasionally failing at it like amateurs. When food or drink goes down the wrong pipe, that's not just a funny choking cough, it's literally your windpipe being ambushed. Your body's first response is the Heimlich wannabe, a violent cough designed to launch that crumb of despair back to daylight. But if it doesn't work, congratulations, you've graduated to actual choking, where your own dinner becomes the villain. Every year, thousands of people die because a sandwich was just too ambitious. And here's the absurd part: the human body has a little flap, the epiglottis, whose entire job is to separate food from air. One job. And sometimes it just takes a coffee break. You could be casually sipping water, and boom, your lungs are now an aquarium. So yes, eating is necessary, but apparently also Russian roulette, because nothing says tragic end like being taken out by a single peanut. Number 8. The hiccup heartbreaker. Hiccups are funny until they aren't. Everyone's had them, the little diaphragm spasms that make you sound like a squeaky toy in the middle of a serious conversation. But here's the disturbing trivia: nobody asked for hiccups. In rare cases, can mess with your heart rhythm. Yeah, you could literally hiccup your way into arrhythmia. How each hiccup jerks your diaphragm, which nudges your vagus nerve. That nerve is basically the electrical wiring between your brain and your heart. Too much stimulation, and it's like someone's playing whack-a-mole with your heartbeat. For most people, it's harmless, but in unlucky cases, it can trigger fainting or irregular rhythms that are the opposite of cute. And then there are the endless hiccups. Some poor souls get stuck hiccuping for days, weeks, even months. There's one famous case of a guy who hiccuped for 68 years straight. 68 years. At that point, it's less a quirk and more a prison sentence. Imagine trying to go on a date, give a presentation, or, I don't know, sleep while your diaphragm plays an eternal game of jump rope. So yeah, hiccups might look harmless, but deep down, they're your body testing how much irritation you can handle before you break. Number 7. The laughing collapse. Laughter is supposed to be the best medicine, unless, of course, it's the medicine that knocks you unconscious in front of your friends. Enter laughter syncope, where laughing too hard actually causes fainting, because apparently joy is lethal now. What happens is that intense belly laughter spikes the pressure in your chest, slowing blood return to your brain. In other words, you're literally giggling yourself into low oxygen mode. 1 second you're howling at a dumb meme, the next you're face down on the floor, unconscious, with your friend still laughing just now at you instead of the joke. And then there's the sinister cousin cataplexy. For people with narcolepsy, strong emotions like laughter can trigger sudden muscle weakness. Imagine cracking up at a comedy show and suddenly going limp like a ragdoll. The punchline isn't just funny anymore, it's a knockout. So while humor may keep you young, it also might put you in the hospital. Great trade-off. Right. The next time someone says, "I laughed so hard I nearly died," just know they weren't entirely exaggerating. Number 6. Choking on nothing. Ever coughed violently on literally nothing? No food, no drink, just vibes. That's called laryngospasm. And it's basically your vocal cords suddenly deciding to slam shut for no reason. The result: you can't breathe for a few seconds, which feels less like a quirky reflex and more like you're being slowly strangled by your own throat. Most of the time, it passes quickly, but those seconds can feel eternal. People describe it like drowning on dry land, flailing for air while their body is like, nah, you've had enough oxygen today. Some folks even get it triggered by acid reflux. That's right, you had spaghetti for dinner, and now your throat is staging a protest. There are even documented cases of people passing out because of it, which is a pretty unfair punishment for literally existing. Imagine waking up on the floor while your family asks, "What happened?" and you have to say, "My throat panicked at nothing." Turns out, the scariest assassin in the room is sometimes just your own larynx being dramatic. Number 5. Fainting at the sight of blood. Picture this: you're perfectly fine, standing tall, maybe even acting tough in front of your friends. Then you see a drop of blood, maybe from a paper cut, and boom, lights out. You collapse like a fainting goat. This is called vasovagal syncope, and it's one of humanity's most embarrassing features. Here's the twisted logic: your body sees blood, panics, and decides the best way to handle it is to make you unconscious. The vagus nerve signals a massive drop in heart rate and blood pressure, leaving your brain like, cool, guess we're doing blackout mode now. The evolutionary theory: maybe it helped ancient humans play dead during an attack, or maybe it was just nature's way of saying, you are not built for medical school. People faint at blood draws, vaccinations, or even hearing about injuries. Imagine fainting not because you were hurt, but because someone else got hurt. Heroic. Not really. More like collapsing into a pile of uselessness at the worst possible time. So yeah, you're not weak if you faint at blood. You're just cursed with a nervous system that thinks the best survival strategy is imitating a fainting Victorian damsel. Number 4. The killer yawn. Yawning seems innocent enough. You're bored, you're tired, You're pretending to care about your co-worker's slideshow, but every time you yawn, your jaw opens wide, your throat stretches, and the pressure inside your head shifts. Most of the time, it's no big deal. Occasionally, though, people actually dislocate their jaws while yawning. That's right, your body can literally betray you mid-boredom. There are medical reports of people yawning so intensely that their jaws lock open, leaving them to shuffle into the ER like a horror movie extra. And good luck explaining that, what happened? You know, my Netflix binge was too relaxing. But that's not even the creepiest part. Yawning affects blood flow and heart rate, which in super rare cases can mess with your cardiovascular system. Combine that with holding in a yawn, stretching muscles weirdly, restricting airflow, and suddenly your harmless sigh turns into a risky maneuver. So next time someone says yawning is contagious, remember, it's not just contagious, it's potentially catastrophic. Imagine dying because you were bored, the ultimate insult. Number 3, the silent heart reflex. This one sounds like urban legend territory, but it's real. There's something called the diving reflex, where dunking your face in cold water slows your heart rate dramatically. Useful for seals, penguins, and maybe Olympic swimmers, less useful for humans at a dinner party. But here's the catch, sudden cold shocks like splashing icy water on your face or jumping into a freezing lake can overstimulate that reflex. Instead of just slowing down, your heart can actually stop. That's right, your body might go, oh, you want to conserve oxygen, cool? Let's just cut the engine entirely. It's been linked to cases of sudden death in cold water immersion. And the irony, people sometimes splash cold water on their face to calm down. Imagine being stressed, trying the classic refresh yourself trick, and your heart just nopes out. Relaxation level eternal. So yes, water is refreshing, but apparently it also doubles as a built-in off switch. Thanks, evolution. Number 2, holding your breath. You'd think holding your breath is simple. Kids do it in swimming pools all the time, trying to impress their friends by staying under until they either surface triumphant or turn purple like a grape. But here's the kicker, holding your breath doesn't just test willpower, it messes with your heart, your brain, and your overall ability to stay alive. When you hold your breath, carbon dioxide builds up in your blood. That's the gas that screams at your brain, breathe now or die. Buddy, ignore it long enough, and your body starts throwing a fit, dizziness, confusion, and in some cases, full-on blacking out underwater. That's how people accidentally drown even if they're Olympic-level swimmers. There's also the shallow water blackout, which sounds like the name of a metal band but is actually a terrifying way to go. It happens when people hyperventilate before diving, tricking their brain into thinking they've got more oxygen than they really do. Then, midway through the stunt, your body shuts down like an iPhone on 1%, only there's no charger waiting at the surface. So yeah, breath holding contests, fun until someone's obituary reads like a Darwin Award entry. Number 1, the reflex that stops hearts. And here we arrive at the grand finale, the vagus nerve strike, also known as carotid sinus hypersensitivity. Sounds fancy, right? What it actually means is that a strong poke or even just a tight collar pressing on the side of your neck can slow your heart rate so much that you faint. In rare cases, your heart just stops. The carotid sinus is like a pressure sensor in your neck that monitors blood flow. Normally, it keeps things steady, but if it's hypersensitive, even a minor trigger makes it overreact. Instead of, hey, let's relax a little, your body goes full drama queen, shut it all down. People have fainted while shaving, turning their heads, or even buttoning a shirt too tightly. Imagine explaining that at your funeral, he died as he lived, fighting a necktie. Doctors have actually documented sudden deaths from this, which means your own reflex, designed to keep you balanced, can become the world's worst off switch. Evolution clearly had a sense of humor, and it was dark. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.